Good evening and welcome to a view from the South Stand. This is your live match reaction to Tottenham Hotspur losing on aggregate 1-0 to AC Milan, 0-0 at home to AC Milan tonight, and we are now dumped out of the Champions League. Without further ado, I'll bring on the guests onto the show. We've got Mr. Justin Coda and the man himself, the one up top, Jacob. Welcome to the show. Obviously, Spurs have been knocked out of the UEFA Champions League now. A dross of a game, 0-0 at home to AC Milan. Justin, I'm going to come to you first. What we saw tonight, it was just lacking in anything. No real urgency in the first half. All right, a little bit more pressure in the second half, but again, there was just nothing there. You wouldn't have thought that we was a team who needed a goal tonight, especially in the first half.
No. And to be fair, everything that had led up to this game, everything in terms of what the club was coming out with, what Conte was coming out with, what the players were coming out with, there was none of that. It was absolutely gutless. It was lifeless. It was embarrassing. And I don't take that down to the players. This will be the first time in probably since he's been at the club, but I will dig out Conte on this because I did feel for some of the decisions that were made for the game just didn't make any sense really. The way that you would have thought with what everyone has said about Milan, and let's be honest, whoever gets through to the next stage of all the other ties will want Milan, because what Milan did was over 120 minutes think, let's get a goal, shut up shop. And they did. And they had a willing victim in Tottenham. That is what Tottenham did. They just didn't really show any energy. They didn't really show any commitment, any desire, no aggression. Well, we'll come on to aggression later on, but bar one stupid aggression, there was just no real desire to actually want to win the game, to want to be in it. And to me, I think that the players believe they're not good enough for the Champions League. They're good enough to get into the Champions League, but they're not good enough to win it. So as long as they get into the top four and they get into the group stage, get out of the group stage and get to knockout stages, that's enough. That is enough, because that's what we saw, was a group of players that felt they've done what they needed to do, that there's nothing further to achieve now, and that, and I say I wouldn't be surprised if we see a we go again from the club either tomorrow or Friday, in terms of, because that's where the priority will then set back in, which will be the top four. And Conte has alluded to it before, and that will be it. And that was what I think really upset me the most about this performance, was just the fact of, I think if it had gone on for another hour or 2 hours, we wouldn't have scored. I think I feel more sorry for the fans who paid, the caring fans, not the fans that just go for a night out and want to be entertaining, that, but the diehard fans. Okay, they didn't deserve that, because they paid hard-earned money, especially in the climate we're in, hard-earned money to go and watch that awful performance. And not being funny, we could have just saved everybody time and just said, actually, do we even bother with this? We're not going to try in this game, so let's just shake hands. Thank you very much. We'll say it was a draw, and we go from there, and that is where, to me, I just felt watching that game, that was all I got from it, was 11 players and the subs that did come on, just thinking, as long as we don't concede, we might have a chance. Well, you've actually got to put some effort in to have a chance, and there wasn't any of that. I'm sorry, that was appalling. Probably one of the worst performances I've seen from Spurs, and I remember watching the Sheffield United game last week. So, to me, though, but this felt worse when you felt that you had that opportunity to go at a team and actually get through to the next stage and create a special night for the fans. There was none of that at all, and that was so disappointing. So it was.
Before we move on to Jacob, I just want to say big up to everyone in the chat at the moment. If you've just tuned in, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you click that like button and notification bell. Jacob, look, where do we start? There's so much to dissect in this game, but cruise control for AC Milan through the whole game. How did you see it? For me, they weren't really troubled, were they? They were just second gear defensively. They looked solid. Their goalkeeper looked solid. Made the last minute save, which was coincidentally the only shot on target we had, or the second shot on target we had.
Well, where do I start? Yeah, cruise control. It's typified by. I don't know if you guys remember. I think it's like the 44th minute. We're just looking towards half time, and you see Harry Kane on the halfway line, look left and see Son with him, and see Kulusevski, and all three of them looked at each other, and you could see that they wanted to press, but they know that this is the manager's orders not to. They all looked at each other, and I was just like, why? You were all sat in your half like we were 3-0 up in this tie, saying to Milan, come and get us. And my analogy on it is like, forget football in life. If you want stuff, you go and get it. So it's like if you go to a club and you want to go and get a girl, you go talk to her. If you want that job, you apply for it. But Tottenham don't do that. It's like we're the girls. We're sitting there and waiting for the blokes to come and fucking get us. Do you know what I mean? It's just embarrassing, man. And then, if I'm honest, when I was watching the game, my brain thinks a little bit differently. So when Romero and Longley both got booked and you realise I was missing, I just wanted us to get knocked out because I thought if we go and play a Bayern Munich or Real Madrid or, even if it was Chelsea and you've got Dyer, Davis and Sanchez. Do you know what I mean? Sanchez or Tanganga's got to play. I just thought, I don't even want to go through this because I said it, in a video that I'm going to post up later that I've recorded that what's the point of us going through? Do you know what I mean? What's the point of us going through this game? Because it's just going to be more torture. We're not going to go and play Real Madrid and keep it solid. There's not going to be any togetherness because it was all scattered today. There was nothing. I never saw no togetherness. I saw a couple of people trying. Pedro Porro tried when he came on. Højbjerg always tries. He's always throwing his arms out. Harry Kane is a given. But then you're looking at like Son, man. Like it felt like I'm not at that level, but the way Harry Kane and other players are looking at Son, it's like me playing Sunday League on Sunday and, trying to do my best, but my sister's on the left wing. Do you know what I mean? My sister ain't going to do nothing, is she? Do you know what I mean? But I'm there going,
the way I'm going to have to interrupt you, the way the Son was playing, I think your sister probably could have done a better job.
Do you see what I'm saying? It felt like if my sister, if it got to the point where we had 10 men and the only person in the whole world that can play to make it 11 is my sister, I know I'd put so much effort in because I know she's not going to do anything. This is what it feels like with Son, who was our best player last year. It's just, I think Jacob, it's all a mess.
What summed up his night, Jacob, was he had the one chance where he was unmarked. There was no one around him, and Richarlison, ultimately lost the ball and wasn't facing him at that point.
Oh right, yeah, that's it.
That just about summed up his night. Terrible.
And for both of them, it's like you got Son, who's crap at the minute. You got Richarlison, who's crap. I'm getting bored of saying, why is Danjuma not getting given a chance, man? Like, what's this guy done? I can't imagine that he's ruffled any feathers. Is it a Levy signing? Because it makes me feel like it's a Levy signing. No, the way because he's doing a Jed Spence again, isn't he? It's like you got players
to the club. That's it.
There you go. You got like Pedro Porro, for instance, he was signed, comes in straight away and takes Emerson Royal's place, who's been arguably one of our better players in the last few weeks. You've got, who else can I think of? Kulusevski, Benson, Coral, these guys, when they came in, they played. So Conte makes it very clear when, in terms of squad rotation, who are his players and who aren't. Like Matt Doherty, for instance, he knows that's a club player. So Matt Doherty just sat in the middle and got rid of. But then it's like, why are we still playing people like Davinson Sanchez? Like he's clearly surplus to requirements. And when Kulusevski come on, I thought, here we go, Danjuma. And then I kid you not, I picked up my bottle of water, looked up, and I was like, oh wow. Davinson Sanchez there, getting warm in the snow. I was just like, oh my days, like that everybody's probably saying the same thing as me. That's just the that's the end of it. That's the end of it for me. Like
at that point when when we went a man down, did you think at that point perhaps we might go to a back four? Bring on Danjuma maybe on that left-hand side. Maybe he can do something. I was under the impression we might switch to a back four, but we just kept it the same, didn't we?
Yeah, for me, it's, I'll just agree with what Justin was saying earlier. It's like at that point, I thought we're down to 10 men. Romero's been an idiot. If we go and lose this 1-0, it's like, all right, at least you tried. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather that, because if, let's say, we tried and then 95th minute we scored the winner, we probably, AC Milan will still probably fancy their chances. But then if you just go and play out extra time and do that again, and then in the last minute get a corner or something, and then we go and win the tie, then it boosts everybody's morale. But then, you saw the droves of fans walking out of the stadium. As soon as that Sanchez number went up, everybody was gone, mate. Like that was the end of the story, mate.
I think, Jacob, look, in the situation that we're in tonight, with time running out as well, I'm a firm believer that you have to go out on your shield at that point.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
you have to go out on your shield. You've got nothing to lose. Throw on some players, just do something. Show a bit of willingness. A lot of people paid good money to be there tonight. I'm not laying all the blame on Conte again overall for the entirety of the season, but tonight, the substitutions again underwhelming in arguably one of the biggest games of our season. It was a make or break situation, and again the substitutions underwhelming. Underwhelming. But look, let's try and take some positives out of this game. In a sense of, who would you say stood out for you tonight individually rather than collectively? Justin, I'll come to you. So was there any performances tonight that really?
I was going to struggle with that one. I think to be fair, we've got to remember that certain players do have certain jobs. Okay, and to me, it felt like that Skip didn't have a bad game. But let's not forget what his role is in the team. And that's kind of what I'm basing it on. I felt that he didn't do too badly. I thought Emerson did okay. Again, he for what his job is, and that's kind of what I'm basing it on. Not the performance as a collective, but as their jobs. And I felt Skip, Royal, even when he had to switch, over to the left side when they brought on when they took off Perisic. And Fraser Forster did what he needed to do again, did his job. That, I think, is a bit that frustrates me the most. When you sit down individually, as you said there, who stood out, it was just the people who did their jobs. But the people who didn't do them so badly. But I would probably say, at a push, they would be the three. And I think what is interesting as well is that those three, probably since the end of January, have been doing that. We've seen, obviously, since Bentancur's got injured, Skip's been coming into the team and hasn't done too badly. He wasn't in the Sheffield United game, and when he played at Wolves, he wasn't too bad as well for what his role was. We've seen almost as well when Royal's not in the team how it seems imbalanced for some reason. But when he came back, he did his job okay. And as an understudy to Hugo Lloris, I thought Fraser Forster's been doing okay. So I would say that those would be the three that stood out, but that is purely on the basis that they did their basics. They did the basics of what they were set out to do, but they didn't exude themselves. They didn't try and push and do anything further than that. And that was almost as if, to me, what I found a bit disappointing about the overall thing, there was none of this further desire to want to push yourself. It was almost like, I'll do what I'm told, but I will not do any further than that. So, yeah, I would probably say at a push, I'd say those three.
And Jacob, I'm gonna double your question. Obviously, I want to see from your point of view who you think sort of stood out a bit, but I also want to talk about Romero. But tonight again, there's no doubt in his passion. He's got plenty of that. There's no doubt in that. He likes to put a challenge in. But as you can see tonight, in important games, it's still a problem for us. and just want to get your view on that as well. So who do you think stood out tonight, and what do you think of Romero at the moment?
Yeah, I'd go stood out would be Skippy for me. Like Justin said, I couldn't really say any more on that. He did what he was supposed to do. He did what he was asked. He ran his socks off. He's one of the players that over the last few weeks has done quite well. Who else? I was all right with Ben Davies. Ben Davies didn't make too many mistakes, and he showed a bit of endeavour. His passing was quite wayward, but I always like a trier. But that it was just all about trying. The only people that stood out were the people that tried. Everybody else, like Højbjerg, I don't mind him, but personally, I think he's overrated. His passing isn't great. Just when you need him to take control of the ball, he doesn't do it. Kane tried, but he always does, and that's as far as it goes, really. But in terms of Romero, that guy makes me laugh, man. Like, honestly, when he did it, I just started laughing because I just thought this guy's just a nutcase, man. Like, I don't know what goes through his head, because to be honest, he was on a yellow card with Longley, and I thought, he's keeping it really quiet, and then he just goes and does that, and you think to yourself, like, what is wrong with you, man? Like, it's to the point where I think he needs like psychiatric help, because how can you not understand you're on a yellow card and you go and do literally he did something that could have got himself sent off without the booking. He's just a clown, and I don't think he's ever going to be a world-class defender doing that, because you could list 100 world-class defenders that we've seen over the years. You've got Maldini, Rio Ferdinand, Vidic, the list goes on, Cannavaro. Even if you go a peg down and talk about Ledley King, they just wouldn't do these things. Do you know what I mean? You'd get to the point where if you want to do it, that's fine, but like, you do that without being on a yellow card. We've got senseless defenders. Like, think about it. The 6 defenders we've got in terms of centre halves, I personally think only one of them's composed, and that's Longley. Longley's the only one that's got a bit of composure. But is he a great defender? Not really. He's a safe one. He's not the one he won't take a risk, but then he won't make a mistake. He's a steady Eddie, isn't he? So he's the only one. Eric Dyer, senseless. Sanchez, senseless. Romero proved today, senseless. Ben Davies, for me, isn't really a centre half. Tanganga, senseless. Like, what are we doing? Do you know what I mean? We got 6 centre halves, and apart from Longley, they're all stupid. But the one that ain't stupid ain't going to be there next season. So when people are talking about bring Pochettino in and back him, you're going to have to back him with about 600 million, because we've got no good defenders.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I totally agree with you, Jacob. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Just want to say, welcome Ashmatic to the show. Welcome to the show, Ash.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Look, I'm gonna let you crack on with it, because I'm sure you've heard all the questions put forward to Jacob and Justin.
Big up, boys.
I'm gonna look to you to decipher what happened tonight, because it was absolute shambles from start to finish. So yeah, crack on, Ashmatic.
Yeah, you wouldn't have thought it was a cup game. The way we attacked the game, you would not think we're in a knockout stage of a cup game. No way. No way. We had no passion, no heart, no desire, no energy, no effort on the ball. It's like when we did actually get into the final third, our decision making was just terrible. Our actual passing in the final third that's what let us down. Kulusevski's crossing, awful. When he needed to pass, he was crossing. When he needed to shoot, he was crossing. His decision making for the first time in a while, not first time, it's been the story of the season, to be fair. But his decision making was awful today. And Son looks like he's got chains on his ankle. He looks like he's got chains. That the confidence is sucked out of him. I can't believe this is the same brother that had 23 odd goals last season. It just looks like a different guy altogether. It's not the same guy. He's so high up the pitch as well. He's so like, I'm saying, brother, you are not Kane. What are you doing there? I need you on the half shoulder. Same way Sterling was there last night. He was on the shoulder, wasn't he? He was through the middle, and he was on the right-hand side. And he was causing Dortmund problems. He was making runs. Our front three, the reason why the midfielders weren't passing into our front three because there's no movement. There was no checking in. You know, like a striker, you might check in and then check back out just to create a little bit of space. There was no little bending runs. You know, like you make a little bending run. There was no like hiding behind the defender and then popping out. You know, you're trying to blindside the defender and then popping out and then receiving the ball.
There's no Defoe runs, was there?
Yeah, there was no Defoe runs. There was nothing. Even like from the midfield, we know that they don't dribble like that. We don't have a midfielder that brings the ball or can drop a shoulder and beat a man. None of that. Nowhere in our squad is there anyone that was going to drop a shoulder that played tonight. I'm talking about that could drop a shoulder and beat someone 1v1. None of that. So how on earth were we going to beat the Lions? Flipping Højbjerg, the first half, his first touch, he squares back to goal. He takes the first touch. Guess where he's going? Backwards. He's negative. So there was passes on, but because his body shape was all wrong and he's got blinkers on the side of his face, he can't see the pass that's open at all. So every time we've had the ball, we're looking negative, but the pass is there, but he's breaking down our key transitions. That's why we were so flat. Skip was good. Skip was good. Skip was front footed. He was the only player that got on the ball, and his first thought was, I'm going to fake to pass this way, and then I'm going to come inside and check. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you need a bit of trickery to beat the midfield. In that midfield too, we don't have technical players like that we can rely on them to say, right, you two are going to sit in the middle. It doesn't work. We always get bossed in midfield. We need 3 men because they're all similar. We don't have players with different profiles that can create. That's why Kane would drop back in that second half and think, oh, fuck this, I'm breaking rank. Because he was told to stay up top. Remember, when Conte first came, he was like, I don't want Kane dropping back. I want him to stay up top. Kane had to break rank. He had to drop off. And then he was trying to find balls into Son. But guess what? It was too little, too late. And they were onto him. They knew exactly what they wanted to. They knew Kane wanted to drop in that hole. And that's basically all Tottenham have. Once you stop Kane doing that, our first half, our two defensive midfielders, they were too deep. We needed to push up the pitch. In the second half, the reason why we started to work a bit is because we pushed up the pitch a bit. But as soon as we're negative and we're dropping in deep, and I think what it is with Conte, I'll be straight. I think what it is with Conte, he gives too much teams too much respect. That's what it is. That's why we play so negative. He's so worried about our defense going back. He never goes for it. He never makes positive. Like today was the first time, to be fair, that he made a substitution early. But I just think putting Emerson on the left, he's got no left foot. So it was like we were playing down automatically when he went to the left wing back. So it felt like we had left men on the field. So then we took Emerson off. Put Richarlison on, went to a 4-4-2. The 4-4-2 didn't work because Richarlison doesn't scan. He doesn't look left, look right. That's why he makes so many poor decisions and poor touches and the ball never works out. We never hold on to the ball when Richarlison's in that position. It's because he doesn't scan the pitch. He's got no self-awareness of where his other teammates are. Because if he did, he would have saw Son in. He would have changed his shape and he would have put a through ball into Son in the second half because Son was on. But because the way he shaped his body, he didn't see Son was in behind. He's taken the touch and he's passed it to the wrong player. And then we've lost a chance. Do you know what I'm saying? We've had about 2 or 3 chances in the whole game that I can say, you know what, that was a chance, you know. But it's just been the story of our last 3 or 4 games. It's been no shots, no goals, no creativity. It's just been woeful. And just to finish off with Romero, he's just naive. That's what I can say. Naive. Our defenders they don't know the art of defending. But Romero is he's too aggressive. We just need to dial him back and give some of that energy to our other players. Because it's like, you want your defenders to defend, but Longlay's too standoffish. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Even though he didn't do too bad today, and he did a few challenges which were a bit off, especially on Giroud. Giroud had him a little bit when it was a one-on-one, and he had to bring down Leao and foul him. Davies the same. He wasn't really good too defensively. But some players just need to learn how to drop off. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think because Conte knows we haven't got those defenders that know how to drop off or can smell the danger before it happens, he's so pragmatic and he wants 3 at the back instead of 2 at the back. He wants 3 at the back and then he wants 2 defensive midfielders because they're not double pivots. They're not going forward. They're 2 defensive midfielders. We've got on the bench another 2 defensive midfielders waiting. Like our team's made out of defensive midfielders. So we've just naturally just got defense and then we got attack, but we've got nothing in the middle. We've got no creativity. We've got no fillings. We've got no barbecue sauce, no ketchup, nothing, no sauce. And I'm done. That's it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, you made some good key points there. And I look at someone like Brahim Diaz, right, at AC Milan. Someone like that is exactly what we need.
Exactly that.
At our
Exactly
club.
that.
Someone
Exactly
who can pick the ball up, make little runs, make little passes, little give and go, 1, 2. There's nothing like that. There's nothing. Okay, you can say Kulusevski, you know, picks up the ball on the right-hand side, looks to beat his man, get the ball in. But there's no one centrally that has that vision to make those little runs and see, you know, who's doing what. You know,
it's the vision. It's the vision. It's the awareness.
The amount of possession we had tonight, you know, we had so much possession tonight. And it's like we've done nothing with that possession.
It was easy for Milan. Easy for Milan. It's so easy for them.
And I just felt like, you know, I know we touched on this earlier on, but for me, Milan didn't come out of second gear. You know, they had Tomori back for this one as well, who might I add is absolutely quality. Tomori is quality.
He's quality.
I think he's been offered a new contract as well at AC Milan. That guy is an absolute beast. But look, Justin, I'll come back to you. Look, where do we go from here? Because, you know, this was like the last throw of the dice. You know, Conte, you know, it almost feels like a swan song tonight. You know, anything can happen this week. We could get some news from the club this week. We don't know. But where do we go from here?
I think, to be fair, you know, where we go and where I'd like to go are completely 2 different directions, because the problem for me is that when you look at what the club was successful on was when everybody was singing, okay, they weren't actually successful, but they had a sustained period of positivity. And people will say, okay, you're talking about the era of when Pochettino was there. But the problem with me with bringing back Pochettino, because I think that's what's going to happen. I think over the next few days, Conte will go, Poch will come in. But the problem there is that what happened, and that people all seem to remember what happened over the first period of time he was there, but people seem to neglect what happened at the end when he talked about the furniture and he talked about you built the stadium, but you built the house, you need the furniture. And you then talk about the fact of, you know, he was critical of the fact of, I'm not a manager, perhaps the club should change my title to a coach, you know, and there were players that he wanted that weren't brought through the door. So in my head, I think I love the sentiment, I love the nostalgia, but what is going to change? And I truly don't believe anything will. Whereas I think if the club was brave and almost sat down and thought, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to go for somebody, as it, for me, I would like Thomas Frank. Or, you know, I mean, I've heard reports about Steve Cooper, and okay, you know, Steve, you know, when you look at where Nottingham Forest are, but let's not forget, you know, with what he is working with and the situation that he's in, and obviously what he did at under 20 level, working with the likes of Phil Foden and people like that to go and win the World Cup at, you know, at that level. To me, I wouldn't have a problem with it, because it then means that the identity of the manager fits the identity of the owners. The problem with Pochettino is, towards the end, he didn't fit the ownership model, which was younger players coming through that he would then develop and he would then either sell on or that they could build on, which is what he was meant to do with the likes of Nkudu, Ng, people like that, you know. And eventually he got to a point where he was like, I want Dybala and I want Coutinho. They're the players. They're ready-made. I want them through the door. And the club turned around and brought in Ndombele, and they brought in Lo Celso. Big money, but that the club could develop. And that was the whole promise. So I don't see how anything is going to change, because we're just going to be in the same boat again 12 months on without Kane, because he will go. Okay, he will have looked at that now and think, what will change? And bringing back Poch won't change anything from what he wants, which is to win trophies. and Poch is there to get you into the top 4. So he will go, and then Poch will be in a similar position to where he was right back at the very beginning, where he is going to have to try and build it back up. The club will then not back him properly. He'll then get fed up. He'll then leave. And then another big name will come in because they will believe that will appease the club. So in terms of what I think the club will do, Conte will go in the next couple of days. Pochettino will be back. Every fan will be rejoicing because they'll believe the Messiah has returned. Although in my eyes, he is the Messiah of failure. I always remember when Jose Mourinho talked about Arsene Wenger as the manager of success of failure. And that, to me, is what Pochettino is. This is a guy who has taken us to, finishing second, finishing third, getting us to a Champions League final, but never won anything. So that only really is beneficial to the club, but not beneficial to the fans. So that may be what we see. No success in the trophy cabinet, but we'll have nice football. That ultimately is where we will go with that. So I'd like somebody different. Ideally, I'd like Thomas Frank, but I think by the end of the week, we'll see Pochettino back.
I just want to welcome Hotspur to the show. Welcome, Hotspur.
Hey, you're right.
I'm assuming that you've just come back from the game, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
you look a bit washed out, mate. Honestly.
Yeah, you look naked, mate.
A couple of things I want to ask you, Haz. I don't know if you watched the show and the questions I put forward, but obviously I want to get your take on the game and stuff. But I also want to ask you about the atmosphere at the stadium tonight.
Yeah.
Apart from little sporadic, come on, you Spurs, and some chants here and there. For me, it just wasn't on that level. When you go to your Dortmunds and you go to all these other clubs where they're just 12th man. But how did you see the game tonight? Because for me, it was just dire, mate, and he wasn't even on the pitch.
I mean, it was fucking atrocious. Like, we didn't create anything. My biggest gripe is in the first half, there was like no aggression, no desire. It felt like I was at a funeral, to be honest. And then I walked out the stadium and you hear his magic, from all like the fans, and I'm just like, shut the hell up, because I don't think going back to Poch is going to do any difference in the long run. But yeah, the atmosphere just wasn't there for a European night at all. I agree with you completely. It's okay if like one person like me and like 100 people is singing, but if it's just me, then do you know what I mean? It just felt like a funeral. That's how I felt when I was there. It was just
it's almost like a sense of impending doom, basically.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously Emerson started, which kind of expected. Perisic played on the right as expected. Sorry, on the left. Like, the team kind of picked itself, but the same players didn't turn up, and the other players didn't turn up that normally don't turn up, and then we got the same results. It's just, I feel with Tottenham, in any sense of the word, we're just repeating the same cycle over and over. And until these owners leave, it's just going to keep happening. So on the manager talk, because I know you guys are talking a lot about Pochettino, of course, and who do you want next and that sort of thing. I've come to the conclusion I don't really care, because we're just going to keep repeating the same. We're just going to keep repeating the same cycle. So you could bring back Poch. I think it will buy Levy maybe 2 years with some fans, because they'll be like, they brought back the Messiah. He learned his lesson, because he didn't back Poch back in 2017 or 18, but now he's learned his lesson. He's going to back him now. But if I was to believe that, I'm an idiot, because we all know what's going to happen. So it's just, and then like, for me, until Levy leaves, I just don't see there's not going to be a change, and I feel like resigned to it. Like, I still go to the games, I still support the team, I still waste my voice for 90 minutes plus shouting at the TV or shouting at the players when I'm there. But yeah, it just all falls deaf ears, if that makes sense. I don't know, that's what it feels like.
And the thing that I find looking at social media, looking at all these other forums and stuff, is a lot of people share the same sentiment as you. A lot of people have sort of given up. A lot of people are like, I don't really care anymore. I don't care who comes in. You know, I've given up with the club. I'm not watching the games anymore.
I still watch the games, but it's more.
Yeah, it's just a mixed bag, really.
Yeah.
But you know, obviously, performances like tonight is not helping the situation. Just want to welcome Scott Yor to the show. Welcome, man. Where are you joining us from tonight? Did you watch the game live or did you watch it from home?
I was at the stadium.
You was at the stadium as well. All right, so we've got 2 people that watched the game at the stadium. Scott, I'm sorry you had to witness that. You know, it was one of those nights. It was freezing cold. You know, their backs were against the wall. You know, needing a goal to sort of have any chance of going through. Talk to me about it, man. I mean,
listen, I understand that Conte's had a tough season in terms of like personal stuff. You know, from a humanity point of view, I can be sentimental to that. But when it comes to the sport and the club that I support, if you're not 100% invested, just put us out of our misery and leave. Because all you're gonna get is abuse. Yeah, like by about the 60th minute, I pretty much was my head was so far in the clouds that had I been anywhere near Conte, I'd have kicked him like the fan that kicked Ramsdale. I promise you. I'd have drop kicked him. I'd have drop kicked him. Like Conte, not only does Conte have to go, I never want to see him in management again, ever. Like this is how bad of a debacle this season has been. Like, to make matters worse, I can't tell you, and I know there's probably been a few performances where, you know, the players have come back into a game and won us a match, but there's not been a performance this season at all that I've been like proud of. Not one single performance. Players like the problem with this club, and one of the biggest problems with this club, is we signed a lot of mid players or players that, you know, really and truly they're good for teams that are battling for, say, top 10 or, you know, battling out with a relegation spot. But they're not the caliber you need if you're really seriously trying to, you know, challenge for titles or even consistently finish in the top 4. The fact that we have Højbjerg as our starting midfielder, not off the bench, not because of injuries, starting midfielder is enough for me to never go to another game till he is sold. Like, he is horrendous. He is no different. And I said this in the stadium, and I'll say this to everyone. He's absolutely no different to Stefan Freund. The exact same. And what makes it worse is I'm old enough to remember Conte as a player. And I know why Conte likes Højbjerg. Because he reminds him of him. Conte wasn't that great. Like, I know people think nostalgia that Conte was not that great. He played in a great Juve team, but he wasn't great. There's no difference between him and Højbjerg. They're awful players to watch. Just the best player on the field today for us was Skip.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a defensive midfielder. So if we're going to play, say, in the future, 4-3-3, keep Skip, have him as a defensive midfielder, get 2 ball-playing centre midfielders or midfielders around him, and let's go play some ball. But this stuff that I've been watching week in, week out, it's nonsense. Get rid of it. I know people didn't like Jose, but Jose had a far worse squad than this. Like, far worse than this. Jose's starting 11 had to, by no choice, include Dyer and Sanchez. By no choice. This guy has Romero, Dyer, Davis, Lenglet. I know they're not great names on paper, but still persist with this 3 at the back. Then adds another further 2 defensive fullbacks. Then adds another 2 defensive-minded midfielders. Well, like, we defended a 1-0 defeat. Who in the
That's a good one. That is.
Like, let's think about this, lads. How do you defend a defeat? You're losing.
It's a joke.
That is mad. That's mad. You actually smacked it there.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if we get bantered with that tomorrow from like that down the road and everyone else. Honestly, it just shows how far down we've gone. Like it's just it's nonsensical, really. I can't make sense of it. It's like the substitution late on, right? We bring on Sanchez, and a lot of people in the chat, few people in the chat have been saying, well, the options on the bench aren't that great. But surely, even if they're not that great on paper, you bring on players that are in those attacking positions to maybe do something. You know, you don't bring on a defender when you're chasing a game, when you're a man down. You know, it just didn't make sense to me. And it's been like the last few times that we lost when Conte was on the touchline and he's brought on players to sort of save us from further embarrassment. But this one, like I was saying to Jacob earlier on, we should have gone out on our shield. You know, if you're gonna concede a couple of goals, then so be it. But at least try. You know, you was at the game, Haz was at the game. At least show the fans some sort of commitment. You know, you're in best competition in Europe, in the world, possibly. You know, best cup competition. Make the most of it. But look, that's the other thing I wanted to ask you about, actually, Scott. The atmosphere at the game. For me, I watched it on the TV, but it's only on certain occasions, especially when Porro come on, he was trying to G up the crowd. But for me, it was really flat. It needed to be a little bit more. It needed to be like, the 12th man. You know, let's deafen them. You know, the AC Milan fans out and everything. It just, for me, it just didn't happen.
The players have got to give us something as well, though, haven't they?
I'll tell you what. This is gonna sound crazy. Yeah. Conte will probably come out in the press or say stuff about the fans got to get behind the players. Listen. Conte is an absolute liar. Yeah. At the beginning of the game, fans were singing their hearts out. People were screaming. You couldn't hear the AC Milan fans. 2 minutes into the game, they're still screaming. And then you know what happened? We get the ball at the back. And we pass it around the back for like a whole minute. And the crowd was like, what the hell is this crap? What is this? Some tickets were £50 bloody pound in a recession, and you're giving me this rubbish. Nobody moved. It got to halftime. We booed, and rightly so. I'm telling you, they should freaking allow us to take beers into the bloody stands. I'd dash my whole drink at Conte. I've had enough. We get to 60th minute, nothing's changed. We're still shouting, come on, get forward. Porro obviously tried to G us up. Yeah. We got behind it. Cross comes in. Oh, missed the chance. Fine. Another chance comes in. It's not happening. And then again, Romero tackle, red card. Okay, fine, not a problem. And everyone saw it. And this is what I like about Spurs. I like about football fans in any stadium. We could all see he took off his tracksuit, and we thought to ourselves, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, no. Do not bring that guy on. We're losing. This is 0-0. We're losing overall. Bring on Dan Juma. If you're going to take somebody off, take off Son. Yeah, because he's given us nothing since he won the Golden Boot. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Thank you. Someone else says it.
So I'm like, take off Son. No. He decides that the kid who's just come back from injury, fine, he hasn't got back to the races yet, but he's decided he's going to take off Kuhn for Sanchez. For us to defend at 0-0 while losing 1-0 overall in aggregate. Ladies and gentlemen, I've never wished death upon anybody, but Conte is pushing my buttons to different levels. Yeah. I'm telling you now, sack him tomorrow. Don't put Mason in charge. I've heard a few people say, I just put Mason in charge. Like, no, don't do that to me. Sack him tomorrow. I want Levy to come out with a press and say, look, the season was cooked. We're apologizing to everyone. Yeah. We're going to find a manager because it's going to take us 72 days anyway to find a bloody manager.
till
And
mid-season
Well,
next year.
no, Scott, I'm going to stop you there because I'm sure we can get Nuno in quicker than that. This
Yeah,
time.
How
It
about
won't take
Nathan
that
Jones?
long.
He's out of job.
Yeah,
Scott
Nathan
Parker.
Jones.
Scott Parker.
I'll be
Scott did a
honest.
cracking job over there, didn't he?
I'll be honest.
And
with you.
David Moyes will be out of work soon, so we can probably have him as well.
David Moyes. Like I saw that we were linked to Thomas Frank and Steve Cooper. Nothing does it for me anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. If we get Steve Cooper, that's it. I'm calling it a day. Because then we might as well just be a freaking French club that sends all their kids on loan. You know, go get some experience and then sell them.
I'll be honest, we do that now. We do it now. Rodon's out at a French club. We've got Spence out at a French club.
It's unbelievable. I mean, look, Sanchez, right? Sanchez coming on. I'm thinking to myself, this must be the striker version from Colombia because apparently he used to play striker in Colombia. So I'm
at 2
thinking,
years age?
Yeah, he used to
Definitely
play
not as an
striker.
adult.
Yeah,
he used to play striker in Colombia. So I'm thinking, oh, we must be putting Sanchez up top, to play striker. But look,
Like I said to you yesterday, the only thing he's striking is that Colombian. You know what I mean? He's on that, man. That's all he is. He's a whatless guy, man.
I think when he fell over the other day during that Sheffield United game, he must have been on the gear. Or was it the
I'll
Wolves
be
game?
honest. No, that was strong wind. That was strong wind. Then it was a windy day, and he went down. You got to understand that. To be fair, bless him.
The Yorkshire
wind
wind,
against
innit?
Gundogan as well. So if it's windy, that's probably why he had to come on because the wind subsided a bit, and then he could stay on his legs.
All right, to be fair to him, he almost won a penalty for us.
That was a good shout.
I'll be honest, nothing more defines clutching at straws than talking about Sanchez as in there's a positive. He almost won a penalty. He almost keeps clean sheets. Let's be honest.
Did we have that record with him last season or something? He kept like X number of clean sheets.
It was 9 games. 9 games
Yeah.
when he played that he kept a clean sheet. But look, I mean, it's just one of those.
I'm not justifying the substitution. I'm just saying it's a joke.
Wait. Quick question. What player this season has Conte improved? Because he's meant to be a coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a good question. It's a good question.
Ben Davies.
Nah.
No.
4-star.
Ben Davies has played a lot better this season. Let's be real, man. But I'm not saying he's great. But apart from that, I'm not sitting there trying to defend Conte.
Emerson. How about Emerson?
Nah.
I think Emerson Royal improved himself. I think he just got a new girl.
I'll be honest. I think that £1 million he's paid out has finally paid off. To be fair, that's about.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I don't think it matters which manager we get because until the quality changes.
No. I have worked out somebody Conte has improved, and that was Stellini. Because when he went off with his gallbladder, we actually thought maybe we should just stick with Stellini. So you could possibly say he improved Stellini to do his job for him.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Stellini's not a player.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I was clutching at straws with this. I'll be honest. It was really quite thin and what have you.
And we've got AJ here on the chat. Obviously, he must be a statistics kind of guy, but he says XG on aggregate: Tottenham 0.98, AC Milan 3.33.
Yeah,
I mean, look, that's look. You look at that, and you can see
That
where
can't be right because that seems far too high for Spurs.
I mean, look,
0.05.
Yeah.
What gets me as well is tonight we had so much possession, right? And AC Milan had more shots than us, and I think they had more shots on target than us as well. Yes, I know they played on a counter attack, but again, toothless. You're playing at home. You need to go from the first whistle. You need to get that ball down there, and you need to start playing like devils.
Do you think we're too reliant on Kane?
I think it's the fact that Conte has now fallen into the same trap as what Mourinho did, which was that there were certain players at the football club he would trust, and everything had to revolve around them. So around with Mourinho, it was Son and Kane. If you remember the partnership that Mourinho was able to get out of them, it was get everything to them, get them two firing, and we will be fine. And you almost look at it now, and I think that Conte fell into the same trap. The problem is that Son has just had a stinker, and when either one of them falls foul and doesn't perform to their best level, then there's nothing, because he's made it clear to the others, I do not trust you. Even with the 60 million that the club have forked out on Richarlison, he does not trust him. Dan Juma, he does not trust him. It's as simple as that. There are players at the football club that the club come in, and the problem, I think, is the club have brought him in. As we said, he is meant to be an excellent coach, but the club have brought these players in, whether it's with his consent or not, but with the premise of, if you coach these players, you will get more out of them. And Conte's looked at it and gone, that's lovely, but that's not the players I wanted to coach. And I think that is where the issue ultimately comes down to, is that he converted to type, which is those two players.
But it's interesting to bring that up, Justin, because I would argue that happened even under Poch's era for a while.
Towards the end.
Yeah.
Towards the end, it was, I think with Poch, I think the problem was towards the end, I think Poch got fed up of what Tottenham were trying to achieve. Because let's face facts, top 4 is the Premier League trophy for us. Okay. And getting, anything else, beating West Ham or beating Chelsea is our cup final. Let's be honest. We beat Chelsea in the Premier League. That's like a League Cup final win. We beat West Ham. That's the same. Okay. I don't think we view that with Arsenal, because I think Arsenal, as they've proven, actually back a manager and are now being successful because of it. But when you look at where it got into with Poch, and this is why I cannot get my head around why people believe this will work with Poch, is because he reached a level where he wanted to take the club forward. He wanted to change the mentality, but the club did not want to do that. So I don't understand, if they sit down in a meeting room, what are they going to say to each other? Because are they just going to ignore that? Are they just going to turn around and say, the first 3 years, that's all we want?
But Justin, don't you think that I see, if Pochettino comes back, I've lost all respect for the guy. I'm sorry, because to me, it seems, because he went to PSG, he couldn't handle the egos. He couldn't win the Champions League with them. Okay, he won League One, but come on, most managers would. And he's coming back, and he sees Spurs as a comfortable job for him, because he knows he can make top 4. The fans will love him. And to me, it seems that way. That's how I'm taking it. And obviously, that suits Levy. That suits Levy. He wants a manager who will just coach young players to top 4. That's about it. And I don't.
The thing is, though, you can't really cuss him for it, because I'll ask the question to you lot. You lot all work. Are you comfortable in your jobs? Because if you are, fucking leave tomorrow, then, innit?
That one. Gotcha. But I think with Poch,
that was a checkmate there, Jacob.
I think Poch,
Jacob, it's not just.
So should I lose respect for you then if you don't leave your job tomorrow? No, there you go then.
To be fair, though, I think it's slightly different if you're going to a club that's going to pay you a lot of millions. I mean,
yeah, 50 million.
If somebody rung you up tomorrow and said, I'm going to treble your wages to come and work for us, you probably take it.
No, definitely would.
Yeah, exactly.
I think something that needs to be stated with this, whole thing of Poch coming back is, in the last few seasons, we had Mourinho, who had a particular style, which worked to a certain point, but obviously needed recruitments in January, never got that. And it just capitulated. It absolutely fell off the wheels, which makes sense with the kind of players that we had. Then we had Nuno, for whatever reason. We're not going to talk about that. That's a Wikipedia answer for another day. And then we got Conte. And now I'm going to say something about Conte that maybe a lot of people might be shocked by. But this season is, to me, no different to Conte's first run or last season, up until when we got Kulu and Ben. The 2 fresh legs came in. Luckily for us, we didn't have that many injuries. We had a few suspensions. And when it finally started to click, obviously after we got kicked out of all the competitions and we had 1 game a week, we went on a run. This season, injuries have kicked in to some key areas, along with Kulu and Ben even being injured at many parts. And now we are seeing exactly what Conte can do as a manager when the wheels are not turning. If Spurs brought Poch back in, one of the biggest things that scared me last summer, or summer just gone, should I say, was the reports, whether it's true, that Conte was offered Maddison and turned it down. And that, for me, was the first alarm of like, okay, fine, you're stubborn in your system, but you get a player that can take a good set piece here and there, can move the ball forward, can get us ticking a little bit, and all you have to do is really put a defensive-minded player beside him, and we might do something a little bit. And he didn't want to go for it, so he stuck with Højbjerg and Ben. When most people watching us could highlight that Højbjerg was the weak link. The wheels have completely fallen off, lads. We've not won a game in 3-4 weeks, whatever it is. We haven't scored in the last 3 games. We've conceded 1, and none. And all
At least we kept the clean sheet.
Yeah.
We kept the clean sheet.
Do you know what? Sorry, Scott. I totally understand what you're saying with that. And to be fair, that is, I must admit, when I read that, I was like, seriously. But this is where there is a failing on the ownership, because the problem being is, if you hire somebody like Conte, you have to fit within that system, because Conte is set up in a certain way. And the problem is, where I think the club failed was absolutely getting James Maddison for, if you had like an attacking manager, that is a brilliant acquisition, and that would have been amazing. However, if you've got someone like Antonio Conte in your team, what you would have done is you would have gone and spent that 60 million. If you were truly interested in backing him on a centre-back, you would have gone out and spent that 60 million and getting Bastoni. If that is what he wants for his system to work, I know people say a lot of it's to do with wing-backs, but you would have brought in Bastoni. If it would have been a case of, he wanted somebody else bar Emerson, you would have brought in somebody else bar Emerson. You would have brought in players. You wouldn't have bodged, because let's face facts, Longley was brought in to stick a plaster over it until they went and got a centre-back this summer. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't work in terms of with a manager like it. It was the same with Mourinho. Yeah. Mourinho has a very specific style. There isn't any flexibility to it. He'll play one way. We know what to get. But if you want it to work, you buy the players that back that system. And that is the problem. It's all well and good turning around and saying you want to go and get someone like James Maddison. And as I said, I said it in January, I wanted us to go for James Maddison. But the problem is he doesn't fit Conte. And you can't turn around and offer players to a manager that don't fit what that manager wants. People will argue back, well, Conte should be adaptable. But if you've turned around and you are paying this manager £15 million a year, you're not interested in if he's adaptable. You want him to be a success. So this is where I feel the club needed to decide if they're going for that type of player and wanting to buy players that the manager doesn't really want. You then need a manager that is prepared to work under that system. And that is where I think it failed. So I totally agree. James Maddison would have been amazing, but you have to, if you can go all out and get Bastoni, and I can see in the comments people saying he wasn't, he turned us down, but there is alternatives out there. Let's face facts. We've spoken about Tomori. We spoke about Tomori, and Tomori himself had a fantastic game. So there are players out there that would have fitted that system. Justin. That's the thing I would thought.
Conte only wanted Bastoni. Let's be honest. He was too stubborn. He was stubborn. He wanted Gvardiol, but the club was never going to spend 100 million. Let's be realistic. Come on,
do you know what? You're absolutely right.
And on top of that, there was you got to factor in Paratici. We can't talk about Conte without factoring Paratici, because Paratici is the manager. Do you know what I mean? To some extent, he's the one that's going to identify the player. He's going to get the player over the line. So I think Paratici, if Conte is to go, Poch is to come in, or if people want Poch in, where does Paratici fit in all of this? That's my question.
I mean, Paratici might even be in jail by the end of the month anyway. So
he needs to go to jail, isn't it?
Yeah, but if I'm being brutally honest, the thing is, Conte being stubborn is one thing, but Jay is right in this. The way the club's been run is a farce. We went into the summer. Look, nobody can lie to themselves. We went into the summer being very lucky that we made top 4. That season was awful. It was up and down all over the place. Anybody with half a brain could look at our squad and be like, you need to sort out that defense. There's no way you're going into another season with Eric Dyer as your starting centre back. There's no way
Yeah,
on God's
but
green earth
Conte
you're
was
gonna
happy
do.
with it. Conte came out and said he was happy.
And do you know? Okay,
Especially
so
when he got Longley in that stopgap, he was smiling. He came into the. Do you remember him walking through?
So
Like
let me say something about Conte. Yeah, Conte. If you actually follow his entire managerial career, these are the kind of players he likes. And what I'm telling you, you can't trust a man that likes players that other people can look at and be like, they're not good enough.
Do you know what? I'm gonna back you up 100% with that, because one of the things I have noticed with the type of players that Conte likes and type of players that we've got, I actually sit there and think so many of those players would do well in Serie A. They would do well in Italy because it's a slower game. It's a more, not fast paced. It's things like that. You look at it, and I think that's the problem. I think what he looks at is Eric Dyer is an Italian style defender, so I can make him work because I'm looking for an Italian style defender, and that is what he sees. And when he sees the likes of some of these other players like Ben Davies, he sees the same. Let's not forget here, Ashley Young went and won a Serie A title in late 30s under Conte, but wouldn't have do that now. Nobody here thinks, no way is Guardiola looking at at him and going, yeah, he'll do. Let's bring him in. And that is where the issue comes into it. He looks at the style of players we've got and thinks, I can make them work because they would work in Italy.
Yeah, but then if you look at some of these defenders as well, though, it's like, I get what you're saying, Justin. You are right on that. But at the same time, they're that bad that if, especially in terms of a squad, you look, if someone said to me, go to Everton and pick 2 defenders and swap them, I could go and get Charkowski and Connor Cody and swap them with Sanchez and Tanganga. That's how bad our squad is. But them 2 are fighting for relegation.
I'll be honest, I'm going to stop you there. I could pick 2 defenders from Port Vale and they'd be better. That's a poor example there. That's a terrible example, if I'm honest.
Port Vale,
But then how did Conte succeed at Chelsea then?
Huh?
How did Conte succeed at Chelsea then?
Players.
End of. They
didn't find that many
like they did with Ancelotti, like they did with Mourinho. It was all about the money.
Yeah. Ash, you wanted to say something? Go ahead, mate.
No, I was going to say, do you know what I heard? I heard that Antonio Conte wanted Ashley Young. He was one of the players that that's what I'm saying. He's got Italian goggles on. So, and there's no way that look, the ownership have a massive responsibility. And they've got to take the L because they were the ones that chose Conte, knowing that what Conte wanted. Yeah. After they brought in Mourinho, they knew what Mourinho wanted, they knew what Conte wanted, they knew what type of managers they were, they knew they were pragmatic, they knew their style, and they know they need to be backed. Yet, when it came to the crunch, right? And I know some people will be like, oh, what does being backed mean? What does that? Does it mean spending this money, spending that money? Regardless of how much money was spent, the quality of players that the managers want, that's what we're talking about when it comes to being backed. And after every single window, after every window, these type of managers are going to ask for these type of players. And if you don't deliver, these managers aren't going to be happy. And then there's going to be egg on your face from the board. Do you know what I mean? But the board, from what I understood from the Poch days, like you were saying, Justin, they wanted a coach that can develop younger players. They wanted players that they could sell on, maybe. Do you know what I mean? That was the blueprint of Tottenham Hotspurs. And now you're seeing Arsenal basically take our whole DNA, because Levy likes to talk about DNA. Arsenal have actually taken what we were meant to be doing, and they're top of the league. It's mad to me.
But what is so interesting, and you're spot on, because as I say, when you look at what they started under Poch, when they actually allowed him to work within that system, you're absolutely right. But then you look at, these pragmatic managers, and I know that Levy saw Mourinho as an amazing and a magical manager, and as someone he wanted after what he'd seen. But I think the problem is that they just felt by bringing in that manager, it would be success. But something you said there, absolutely spot on. Conte and Mourinho are managers. They don't work. Yes, they coach players, but they're managers. And this is the problem. It doesn't fit the Tottenham narrative, which is somebody who is given a group of players and is told to improve, develop, and work with. And that is something that, if Poch is going to come back, it needs to be made very clear that what you sulked about, what you threw your toys out of the pram for, what you've, basically did to get yourself sacked, you're going to have to accept that isn't there. What you did in the beginning, and possibly things like that, like the 500 days without signing anybody, or being given players from unknown leagues, that will be what's pragmatic. That is what you'll have to accept. Otherwise, this is a pointless rehiring of you because it will not work.
But the problem at Tottenham is that it's almost like the owners expect them to go out and sign the players regardless of whether the manager wants them or not. So obviously Nkudu, players like that was brought in, and Poch didn't really want them. And then you could go back to numerous managers where the owners went and bought them. I would go back to Martin Jol when we signed Darren Bent for 16 million, which was quite big money at the time. And actually, Joel asked for a left winger when he spent 16 million on Darren Bent instead. Like, it's a recurring theme. So it's like they want a manager which accept anything they're given. But in today's day and age, you're not going to succeed at a football club if you have a manager like that.
The problem is the plan.
You can if the manager's prepared to accept it and work it. Everybody has to work under the same hymn sheet. If they don't, then absolutely you agree it's totally pointless.
But it doesn't work with any manager, because if you've got a manager, I always look at it like this. Imagine if you're a call center manager and you can't choose who you want. So you're like, all right, cool. So you're trying to get a call center going, and then all of a sudden your manager goes, there you go. There's 4 crackheads to work with. You're not going to be productive, are you? You want to get in that interview process and interview the people and see who you want. Now, if your manager's going, there you go, there's a crackhead, there's a druggie, there's a prostitute, are you going to be successwill? No. So there's no point in being. There's no point in doing it.
That's what I'm trying to say. It will never work.
£15 million a year, because I will quit my job now and I'll go work in a call centre, 15 million quid a year. That is, I'll guarantee I'll do that, no problem at all. I mean, it'd be interesting if I'm going to work with crap.
No, but what I'm saying is, what's the point of being given tools? What's the point of being given players that you don't want? What's the point? That's what I'm trying to get at.
With that, and I'll tell you where that stems from, because it's something that Tottenham have looked at for years. That is the European model. So if you look at teams like Bayern Munich, you look at predominantly the Italian leagues and Spanish leagues and things like that. That is how that works. It is a case of that you have either a sporting director or a club manager, who buys the players, gives them to the coach, and then the coach works with them. That is what Tottenham have flirted with for years.
Since
Arneson was the start. Frank Arneson was the start, because they believed with him and Jacques Santini that would be it. And it's
never worked, so that's why I don't get why they're doing it. It will never work.
So the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again.
There you go. That's exactly that.
Using them as a shield.
Accountability, basically, is absolving.
It's not me. It's Paratici.
Basically.
Are we taking? Go on.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, before Pochettino left, right? He was saying, obviously, look, we need to, build up the furniture. We need to rebuild. It's going to be painful, this, that, and the other, right? So since Pochettino left, we've brought in all these managers. We've brought all these players. How much do you reckon we've spent?
600 million.
Right, 600 million. So do you reckon we could have done that rebuild with Poch?
With 600 million, yeah.
All these managers that we've gone through, all these players that we've gone through, yet we had the money right there. We could have. I know we was doing shit. We was in 14th when he got sacked. But look, I would make the argument that look at where Arteta was last season in the bottom, rock bottom of the league, basically. Any other manager in top league would have gotten the sack. Just based off that.
I think the lockdown saved Arteta, because the Arsenal fans would have just run riot otherwise, because they were so toxic.
There may be some of that in here, but ultimately the board made the decision, though, Ash.
Yeah, you're right.
That decision.
I agree.
But look, that 600 million, why couldn't we say, look, Poch, we're going to back you, yeah?
But they didn't want to fulfill his
want-
vision. That's what it is. They never want to
Well,
fulfill any
this is the
manager's
problem.
vision.
And again, it all stems from the top, and the shit rolls downhill to the bottom. So
There's more shit to come.
Can
Go
I
on.
add on to the whole 600 million spent? I'm going to say something about the 600 million spent. Since Poch has left, we haven't, and even while Poch was there, we haven't bought another striker, not forward, striker, that could legitimately bench Kane. And let me highlight what I mean by that. Yeah. And what I mean by legitimately bench Kane, where the manager can be like, you know what, Kane, last game you were a bit off the pace. I'm gonna put my man on because you know none of this nonsense of you thinking, right, you're starting every single game, and this is not even a shot at Kane. Aguero was the man for City. The man. Absolutely nobody is taking his starting lineup.
Hey,
They went and got Gabriel Jesus. Pep said, Aguero, meet the bench, meet Aguero. Yeah. Aguero said, I don't think you
But this
understand
is-
who you're dealing with.
Yeah,
My
and the problem
name-
though is with that, because I'm gonna have to shoot off in a minute. But the problem is with that, and that is what a big club does and a big manager does. You turn around and you say, "Look, I'm sorry. If you have a bad game, you are to be dropped. You are not gonna. Your name isn't on there before I put everybody else's on. If you do not perform to the highest level, you will be dropped." And what we have seen, and this is where Tottenham have failed for so long for, is the amount of players who have continuously failed throughout their time. I mean, there are players that are still there. There are players that eventually left that just knew that. And this is where I think one of the most saddest things is that a lot of players will probably sit there and think, I'm going to outlast Conte.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what happens because I
Yep.
can have bad games, but I will outlast Conte or I will outlast the next manager. Yeah. You know, there's so many players we could list that have gone through so many managers, and it is almost a sense of it's just accepted because the club won't be prepared to lose money and, you know, and just get him out the door. As we saw with Dele Alli, we could have got 20 million for him. In the end, we begged Everton to take him. So it just shows where it goes. The players will go last before the manager does.
I mean,
And
Jose
that
tried to
is
ship
those
off
problems.
Delhi to PSG, didn't he, in the January?
Yeah, he did, and
Yeah.
Levy said no.
It's
You
not.
know,
It's not even just the players that lost in the manager. It's even like the board and how they sign players. Like for instance, we did not sign a starting, and when I say starting, I mean decent caliber centre back until Romero. What 3-4 seasons? You mean to tell me we picked up Rodon, we kept Tanganga, we got
How about
Lenglet
Porro?
on
How many
loan?
years does it take us to get Porro?
Well, I was going to say we could go through Porro. It was over 100 million we spent to replace Kyle Walker, so that said enough there, really.
Like,
so
the board isn't. But listen, I'm telling you, Enoch, Levy, all of them, they need to go to more Formula One meetings and get this freaking takeover done.
Yeah,
Because
trust me.
I've had enough.
Amen.
I've had
Amen.
enough.
Guys, we've been going on for almost an hour and a quarter at the moment, so we are going to wrap up the show soon. But before we go, I've put it there in the comment section. Each and every one of you, I want a prediction for Forest game this weekend, and yeah, just honest opinions. How do you see it going? I'll start off with Jacob because I know Jacob, you've got to shoot off. Jacob, Forest this weekend. Do you see it as an important game, and what would your prediction be for that game?
We'll probably lose 2-1 and Steve Cooper will get the job. There you go. How about that? Like, trust me, I've got no confidence in these guys anymore, man. I ain't got no confidence, man. Like, put it this way, my son is 6 year, and he's noticed that I'm not bothered about Tottenham anymore. Like, who were we playing the other day, man? And I was just like, I was cleaning. And he was like, "Yeah, Dad, come downstairs. Like, the game's about to start." And I'm like, "Yeah, 1 sec." I was too busy getting the shake and vac out. Like, I didn't care, man. I had the Hoover out. Like, not bothered. You know, when they lose, and then because
they were shaking back.
Yeah, and like my son was like, you know, because he's obviously like, see, you know, he wants to play up and be like, oh yeah, you know, let me be upset because Dad must be upset. He was on the floor like upset when we lost the Wolves, and I was just like, well, I can just go and carry on cleaning now. Like, Don't bother me, man. Like, honestly, I don't see the point in it. They're not going to ruin my weekend. Simple as that. So 2-1, Steve Cooper in. Simple as that.
Quite ironic that you're feeling and Tottenham got dusted at the same time.
That's what I'm saying. If they need the cabinet cleaning, mate. You know what I mean? If it needs redusting and that, shout me, innit?
Oh man. How's do you see it go, mate?
2-2.
2-2.
Yeah.
2-2. Yeah. That's a bold one. That's a bold one.
Confident.
Confident 2-2 draw.
I mean, I say it's a bold one because you know it's a scoreline where we're not losing. So, yeah, Justin.
Do you know what? I think you're being too negative. I think you know, Poch will win his first game 3-0. Poch will win his first game 3-0.
Do you think he's here tomorrow morning then? Do you think he's coming in tomorrow morning?
He's probably already at Hotspur Lodge. Let's be brutally honest. It's just weird that Conte's going into the lodge and he's seeing Poch there and he's like,
what are you doing there?
What are you doing? Oh, nothing. I'm just having a catch up. So yeah, Poch wins first game 3-0. That's my prediction.
3-0 and Poch to come back. Ash, is it going to be the bounce back game after all these defeats and disappointing results?
At the moment, we are toothless. We are so toothless. We've got nothing left, like Ian Bill. Nothing left. So I just feel like we're going to be 0-0. I think it's going to be a draw. I can't see us, like, our home form doesn't even matter anymore because the fans are going to be there. It's going to be ghost town. So people are offering me tickets left, right, and center, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I want your ticket. I don't want your
you get to see the Spurs new manager though. You get to see Steve Cooper, according to Jacob. So,
I'm all right. I'm
I spend my money.
It's cold outside. I'm a black man. Look, we don't do this cold, man.
Scott, we'll come to you. How do you see it going this weekend?
So on the other podcast, I've predicted that we lose every single game to the end of the season. That's not changing. So I'm going for a 2-0 defeat.
That's Tottenham Optimism 101. That is brilliant.
Straight 2-0 defeat. Son's going to get injured. And hopefully he just goes into a modelling career as far as I'm concerned. Because I'm done with it.
That's so funny. Because it's true.
I'm done with it.
Mate, I haven't seen a drop off in a player since Dele Alli like that, honestly.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing.
Mm.
It's
crazy.
Common denominator, Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah,
I club that breaks you.
I actually think, as bad as it sounds, I think they'll come back this weekend. They'll win the game, and then look, I'm going to say the Happy Clappers because that's what they are. But the Happy Clappers will come out and say, "We're back on track now." Look, you all know this is.
I had an argument with my dad about this on the way home. Yeah, I was like, I don't want to finish top 4 because we're going to get into the competition and get knocked out again and come back and repeat the process.
But you all know this is the scenario, right? We'll come back and win this weekend, and everyone look on your socials. People are like, it's not that bad. I know we got knocked out of the cups and stuff.
Where's the Levy haters now?
We're still fourth. Where's the Levy haters now? You know, we're back on track. That's what it's
going to be. Again. That's what will be there tomorrow.
We go
again.
Did you see what's his name? Comments. Who was it? Saying we go again. Didn't one of the players put a comment like that this week?
Yeah.
The club did it. The club put we go again.
Yeah,
so
it was a club. That's it. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
So that's right. Tomorrow, Conte goes, we go again.
That's the goal.
It's just dumb, man. I hope half of you, like when they say go again, I hope you go and stay gone. You know what I mean?
The usual cycle from the club is, and this is on Twitter, when we lose a game, a couple of days later, we'll go again, training pictures. We're all
happy, smiling.
Every time. It's the standard.
Yeah, someone's going around tickling people and that, you know what I mean? Like,
well, it's not like we were the kind of fans that are gonna riot. Well, some of us will, but the fans that actually do turn up to some of these, riots.
I've gone to 2 or 3 protests.
They'll go there for a little sing-along, little Chaz and Dave, Kumbaya, a couple of that, and then, just go back into the stadium. That's it. Me, listen, lads, I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah. As a fan right now, when the season is done, personally, I want us to all go down there and burn that freaking pitch. Burn it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because right now, we do not need to have a club in the middle of North London. Put up some flats, get some people in houses, bro. Yeah, because you're killing my vibe, absolutely murdering it. To be out in this cold and watch us defend a 1-0 loss is the most diabolical thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Holy Tottenham.
On that
We
note,
don't need a pitch. We don't need a pitch because like Beyonce ain't going to be dancing on the grass, is she?
Yeah.
She can't play centre half though, can she? So we're in trouble.
She probably can.
Oh, I don't know, but she can stand on her feet, unlike Sanchez. She has to stand on her feet for 2 hours at a concert, so she'll be all right, man.
Yeah.
on that note, guys, just before we go, I just want to just get a quick roundup where we can catch you guys. If you've got your own channels, plug away. Obviously, Scott. First time I've had you on the channel, myself hosting. Where can we find you? If you've got any socials or anything?
So you can find me at Yao Bruce Buzier on Twitter. I'm also part of the NSO group, the North London New Spurs Order on Touchline Frackers. So you can catch me on that podcast also.
Make sure you get over to Scott over on Twitter and on his socials. Jacob, one up top. Talk about your channel, mate, and when you're on next.
Yeah, so I'll probably post something later on or tomorrow. So yeah, I'll be on there today, Friday. I'll just go around going on everyone's show. So I'll be on your one. I'm on Tommy's one. Yeah, whenever Tottenham lose, it's good to watch, man, because I get it wrapped up in half hour and get the Hoover out. So just watch it. Just follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and then I've got a YouTube channel. That's the one up top. So you've got to do is type the one up top football, and you'll see me there. So just trying to build it up slowly.
There you go. Get over to Jacob's channel on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. Justin, I know you're on quite a few shows. You're on this show.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I am introduced to Jacob. If you can let me know when you do your shake and back show, and obviously, the cleaning one, let me know when that's up because I definitely want to watch that and what have you. That probably
cleaning channel.
Yeah, the cleaning channel. Yeah, I'm up for watching that definitely.
I'll be getting my QVC on.
How to probably do it? What direction we go in? Do we go backwards? Are you with the Hoover? Do you move left or right, or do you push out with it? Do you walk around with it?
I can't reveal my secrets, mate.
Oh, man.
Jacob, you could talk about tactics on how to use a Hoover, innit? Like, you could go through little tactics.
No, I mean,
shake up the squad.
I'll be honest, it's probably better than the tactics that Conte used tonight. So
that's it, yeah.
But no, in terms of me, it's pretty much either here with Tommy or all things Tottenham. So give all of those a look, and yeah, thank you again for having us on.
Make sure you go over to Justin on his socials. Ash, you've been on before. Where can we find you, mate?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm about, man, on shows. I'm looking for invites. I know they say no blacks, no dogs, and no Irish. but I'm happy. But let me be the exception. I'm happy to jump in. But yeah, I'm about, man. You'll see me around in the clubs, in the streets. I'm out here, man. I'm out here.
Nice. He's everywhere all at once. Nice. I like it. And lastly, Has from Hotspur TV.
Yeah. So
when are you on next, mate? Tell us.
Probably Friday night at some point. Sunday as well, because unfortunately we have to dissect Forest after another probably defeat. But
Forest are probably going to dissect us. But
yeah.
Watch will be back. It's fine.
I'll probably have a video out tomorrow. And if Poch is appointed, I'm going to do a Poch out video as well. So yeah.
Make sure you go over to the hashtag channel. Yeah.
And just get into trouble arguing with other people. That's basically what I do, really.
Right, guys. So thank you very much for being on the show tonight. Obviously, that's where we're going to wrap it up. Once again, if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock,
get to know.
Spurs have been knocked out of the Champions League, and I don't know when I'm going to say that again. So there we go. So it's a good night from me, and as always, come on, you Spurs.
Leave you out.
Peace out.